Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome in once again to the Football Goons podcast. We're excited to be with you live on YouTube, as well as wherever and whenever you are listening across all different various podcast formats that are out there worldwide at this point, might I add. Thanks for taking the time to support us. We appreciate that more than you know. Without you guys, obviously, there'd be no reason to really do this other than the four of us knuckleheads hanging out, arguing with each other, which I guess we would do anyway. But anyway, we're diving head first into week 9 of the fantasy football season. We've got a bunch of buys this week. We've got injuries to worry about and potential trade market looming up out there in the NFL. So a ton to break down this week. But the big news of the day, obviously, is that Hugh Jackson fired as the Browns head coach. Todd Haley actually let go as well. And one of the most ironic things you'll ever see as offensive coordinator, the perceived power struggle that was going on there ends up with them both being fired within an hour of each other. So go figure with that. But that brings up my opening question. Everybody talks about wanting to, whether it's for one time or whatever, being a head coach at the highest possible level. What's the one head coaching position that you would have a hard time actually accepting of the 4 major sports? And not just because you don't like a sport.
Like a specific position or?
Yeah. So a specific, if you tell me the easy one obviously would be the Browns head coach because it's a dumpster fire, but I'm just throwing it out there to see if there's any different answers.
I think sorry, Rock, but the Knicks head coach for the same reasons. It is such a dysfunctional, disastrous organization.
It's 100% the owner. It's
okay,
awful.
Fine. There's my
no.
You don't want him to be your boss.
That's not what I'm going to pick, but I agree 100%.
If you're going to get me a new owner, it's probably one of the top 10 most attractive head coaching jobs, right? Because you will get any free agent you want.
Yeah. Yep. There is a reason why they have not gotten a legitimate free agent in like a decade, and it's 100%. It's got to be James Dolan at this point. That makes no sense. I would think I would say the Yankees, but I would say manager of the Yankees or Red Sox, because at this point, those two positions, the expectations are so high. It's World Series or bust every year. So you can't. I'd rather coach the Browns than coach one of those two teams that's always going to be high expectations expected.
Yeah, you go 7-9, they're going to build a statue of you.
Exactly.
Yeah, but there's something to be said about getting $250 million payroll too. So that takes some of the pressure away from that.
No, it doesn't. It adds pressure because you have a $250 million payroll. So unless you're getting 100 wins and making the World Series, it's a failure of a season. And obviously, let's not forget, I'm not coaching the Patriots. I don't give a crap. If I do a good job, then I'm miserable.
I actually, as much as I love every single sport, I hate coaching. I even love people. I do not enjoy coaching, even a little bit. Not even a fraction of it, a little bit do I enjoy it. I don't know why. Just, it's not in there for me.
I think that there's a very obvious answer here because everybody wants to jump to the Browns, but I don't know. I feel like part of it would be fun because there's not a ton to live up to. You do constantly always have a ton of draft picks, which is one of the most fun parts of, kind of putting a team together. You always have younger guys, but going back to that meddling owner kind of thing, I can't imagine why anybody wants to coach the Cowboys, especially in this day and age. Not only do you have all the pressure of living up to all of those previous expectations of how good they were at one point, but you also spend a fair amount of money on everything, adding to that. And then you just constantly have an owner basically meddling in everything and screwing everything up for you. So I don't know, what was probably one of the more glamorous jobs around for a long time. I just don't think I'd want to go near it at this point. All right, let's talk about fantasy football here and get into waiver wire acquisitions. So we're going to look at some of the more popular names for this week. This is not an all-inclusive list. This is just names that I brought up based on either availability or buy situations or how I feel like they might be able to help your team, plus the rate that they're being claimed or have a claim put in on them. So the first name here, Ryan Fitzpatrick. We've talked about him a lot on this podcast this year, probably rightfully so at this point because he's been pretty fun. The announcement did come out this afternoon. He will be the starter for the foreseeable future with the Bucs. The offense runs so much better with Fitzpatrick. What level of interest do you have in him?
I mean, it has to be a lot if I would say in multiple quarterback. I think my big issue here is most leagues with one quarterback, no one's in trouble. Like it's been a really good, knock on wood, quarterback year. The guys you expected to do well are doing well. The guys you took flyers on kind of mid to late rounds and Andrew Luck and Matt Ryan and I don't know, MVP Pat Mahomes are all doing well. So, I mean, there's a lot of teams that their biggest quarterback issue is, hey, I drafted Aaron Rodgers and then Pat Mahomes. I got to trade one of these guys. Right. So I think that's kind of the big issue at quarterback. Going back on topic, though, if you are in trouble, Fitzpatrick's not a great name, I guess, but gosh, it's hard. You have to be apparently Jameis Winston to mess up with this Buccaneers offense.
Yeah, listen, if you're in a spot where you need to start him every week, I still don't think you're in a good spot because that means that you were probably starting Jameis every week, which makes you not in a good spot. I think he gives you some a little bit more than you're going to get from Jameis, but I don't. That's a really brutal schedule coming up here. Like you got to play the Panthers this week, which no, their defense is not what it has been in years past, but it's still the Panthers. It's a divisional game. Like Miles said today, like you can't trust any divisional game in that entire division, the NFC South. So it's just too much up in the air, I think, to be able to rely on him week in and week out because you'll get weeks like 1 through 3, and then you'll get weeks like week 4 and week 5, which was what led to Jameis coming back in the first place.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. If you were somebody who had been banking on Jameis for the last couple of weeks, do you look elsewhere or are you content with Fitzpatrick at this point?
I think it might depend what your wire looks like. We're going to talk about this guy in a little bit, but I like Derek Carr this week. I mean, it kind of depends. If you want to stream, then fine. I kind of think at some point you stay away from this situation because, I mean, if Fitzpatrick struggles, are they going to go back to Jameis? I mean, it hasn't even been announced as of now, but do you want to touch that situation at all? You could get a half a game out of either guy.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I actually think that everybody but the quarterback improves in stock.
Yeah, got to have him.
The only reason why, I'm a little bit more down on the quarterback is because overall, he's still going to have that one game like he had against Pittsburgh where he throws 3 picks. So,
you're not going to know when it is.
No.
Right.
And it seems to be with him, it's no rhyme or reason either. Like
no.
he should have thrown 4 touchdowns and no picks against Pittsburgh, and then he does the opposite. So I don't think he's even really a case where you can just confidently stream him. But at the same time, if I'm on a bye week, I have as much confidence in him as I do most of the other guys on the wire.
Yeah, he had a decent week in Pittsburgh, but it was a second half comeback where you got a lot of picks from him in the first half, and it was like, oh, this is what we're gonna get from him. So like, it's just like this QB carousel in Tampa Bay is gonna go on all year long because they're not gonna just give up on Jameis right now. They're not. So the first time Fitzpatrick proves that he doesn't belong on the field, we're gonna see Jameis again.
All right, let's talk about a player who is 37% owned. That's Kiki QT. Will Fuller is down for the year at this point, so we're expecting probably an uptick here in production from him. At this point, is he a guy who you want to own?
I'll roster him for sure. Yeah. I mean, he's at least worth a flex look every week, based on matchup. I think he was productive for the couple of weeks that he was in there and healthy, even with Fuller on the field. And now Fuller's out, so he kind of slides in that number 2 spot. We'll see if he can become a true number 2 receiver as the guy who's being game planned for, I'll say, because a lot of times I don't think you're really game planning for a number 3 receiver. But, in some sense you are. but I definitely think he's worth a roster spot at this point.
Yeah, I think he has some chemistry already with the quarterback, and when he's given the opportunity, he's been pretty productive. You know, the first game he was on the field, what do you have, 15 targets. So if he's going to get the looks, which DeAndre Hopkins is going to get his, but if he, you know, obviously if he gets that somewhere between 6 to 9 targets, which there's no reason to think he won't, I think he's going to be productive, and he's going to score a couple touchdowns. So I think he's worth looking for, especially if you're in a PPR, worth looking for in a flex, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with you. He's an intriguing option right now, especially on a week like this where there's 6 bye weeks this week. So he's worth a look at this point to me. A guy who I think we probably agree is more than worth a look is DJ Moore of the Carolina Panthers. His targets are going up every single week. You're seeing him be a lot more involved in that Carolina offense. The talent is there, but do you think that it's really just the production because Torrey Smith has gone down, or do you think that he's really going to be a part of this offense moving forward?
Talent has to win out there, right? Like he's a better receiver than Torrey Smith, especially at this point. And I just think, you know, we saw his talent ahead of the season, even ahead of the draft. We talked a lot about this guy. It's taken him a little bit of time, maybe more time than we assumed it would, but Cam's going to keep throwing. So I think he's going to be a beneficiary of that, especially as the season goes on here and he gets a little more confident and comfortable.
I'm on the reverse of this. I know I just pined for Kiki, but DJ's still in my mind like he's too young. It's too wishy-washy. It's too not consistent. I think he's super talented. I definitely think he's more talented than Torrey Smith at this point. But he's a rookie wide receiver.
Isn't he older than Kiki?
He is older than Kiki, but I mean, I guess the difference between the two is like from day one, Kiki came in, and no, he didn't play early on, but as soon as he stepped on the field, you saw the chemistry there, and I guess they've been working towards that with him and Newton, so I guess it's optimistic, but I get so weary of rookie wide receivers in general that like I don't want to expect what we just saw from him every week because that was the first week that we saw that.
I think that's unrealistic.
You know what I mean? So he's gonna get looks in the running game on gadget plays. He's gonna get his touches here and there, but it's unrealistic. He didn't score last week, and it's unrealistic to expect 119 total yards from him every week.
Yeah, he's actually 3 months younger than Kiki, so your point stands.
My biggest issue, Rock, is actually what you just ended with. He is, without question, the number 5 scoring threat in Carolina. Now, he could take a long play, obviously, but once they get down in the red zone, it's Cam, it's Funchess, it's Greg Olsen, and it's Christian McCaffrey in some order. But he's definitely 5th at best when they get down there. So in order for him to give you value, if you're going to start him in a fantasy league, he needs to be 5 catches for 90 yards.
Yeah.
And as we've seen, you said inconsistency. Well, that's the only time he's done that. So I'm not going to bank on that. So roster him. Yeah, sure. Maybe things can change, but not if you have better options. We hit this segment here, and all the time I feel like we're saying roster him or don't. Well, there are certain rosters DJ Moore should be a part of. But if you're sitting pretty and you like your bench, then stick with it. Now, if you like your bench and your buys are almost finished, then pick him up because
take a chance on him.
He's a high ceiling player that you may not need to start at all. You need some players on your bench, so pick him up. But if not, I mean, you gotta let the guy sit there. You can't just pick ceiling players if you're 2-5 right now. It's about to be 2-6. It's just not. Rock like you. Right? It's not the place you can be in.
Just to add to that, like I listen, we don't talk enough about roster construction. We're in a league where we start 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 2 flex players. DJ Moore is going to be on one of our rosters, and he is like not one of ours, but somebody in our league. But if you're just a regular, standard league, you start 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and maybe a flex, maybe not a flex. DJ Moore might not be a guy you're looking at unless you're set and you can take a risk on a guy like that.
Yeah, so just to kind of close it out, probably the biggest appeal to him right now for me is that over the next 3 weeks with the bye week bonanza, so to speak, Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, Detroit, all in a row. So you would expect those are going to be good situations for the Carolina offense. Again, you don't know quite how involved he's going to be, but with the last couple weeks possibly being a trend, seeing him get a couple more targets, be a little bit more of an active option in the game plan, I'm really interested at least to see how that plays out over the next few weeks. All right, another name here, 15% owned, Devontae Parker of the Miami Dolphins. Look, it comes down to this. Somebody has to catch passes for the Dolphins. Is there any level of faith that that somebody could or will be Devontae Parker?
This wasn't 6 weeks ago. Last week we were talking about Danny Amendola and how much, like, you know what I mean? Like, no, I don't have any faith that it's going to be him. Like, I didn't have any faith it was going to be Danny Amendola last week, and I'm not going to have faith in whatever wide receiver they throw to 6 times this week. Like, it's too inconsistent. I don't trust that Miami offense at all, because one day it's Drake, and then the next week we're like, oh man, Frank Gore got like 18 carries. And one week Danny Amendola gets 9 targets, and the next week Devontae Parker gets 9 targets. It's inconsistent. I don't think they know which end is up at this point. And it's kind of sad that they're sitting at 4-4 and in a playoff race, because I don't think that offense deserves to be in the playoffs.
I mean, lose that term
4-4 in the playoff race is really two different statements.
Technically,
they
everybody's
are
in the playoff race.
No, the Bills are not in the playoff race.
Technically. Look, here's the only positive spin that I could put on this. Look, like, whether or not we feel like it was warranted, he was a first-round drafted pick. I don't know what the reasons were that he was down for so many games at the beginning of the season, whatever. He got activated 2 weeks ago, basically just showed up and kind of got a little bit of a sweat going. Last week, 9 targets, caught 6 balls for 134 yards against Houston. I mean, Houston's not a terrible defense. They're not elite by any means, but his schedule's kind of favorable the next couple of weeks here. The Jets have been tough. I get that, but they've also been susceptible to, some big plays from receivers. Then you got Green Bay, you got Indianapolis. I don't know. I mean, call me a sucker, but I think that he, for the next couple of weeks during buys, might actually show out a little bit.
I don't think this is an issue of Devontae Parker. I still think he's a pretty good receiver. I don't think he's like top 5 receiver, of course, but I think he's a pretty good receiver. I think it's just the state of the union right now.
Sure.
The Dolphins are bad. They're a bad football team. So who knows what you're going to get in productivity any week from any of those guys. But I still do think Devontae Parker's the best option there. A good option for you, maybe not, but I think he's the best option there. If you're going to own somebody, he's the one to own.
All right, the last name here. This one surprised me with how often claims are being put in on him this week. Probably just a product of a big game yesterday. Josh Reynolds of the Rams. He's owned at 14%. Is any level of this sustainable, or is this just because Cooper Kupp has been out that we're seeing this kind of production from him?
That's a mirage out of him yesterday. 100% for me. I mean, Kupp is out. The Rams are going to score a bunch of points. It just so happened to be his day yesterday. Yep. I mean, I think it's the only time we're going to see Todd Gurley with only 1 touchdown, so he's going to pick some up. Cooks has to score more. Robert Woods has to score before he does, and Kupp will be back soon. I just don't waste priority or fab money or anything on chasing Josh Reynolds points from last week.
And that's really the biggest reason why I brought this up, because when I saw some of the different things out there suggesting to spend, free agency budget on Josh Reynolds, it's crazy. I mean, literally before we went live, I saw a notification that McVay thinks that Kupp is probably going to be able to go this week. Immediately
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. So immediately to me, Josh Reynolds is back down again. Like, he should be 9% owned. And that's only because there are some leagues out there that play 18 teams. So, but don't spend any of your budget on this guy. Just don't. Do yourself a favor.
Listen, the Rams' number 3 receiver is definitely rosterable and flex worthy. So when he is the number 3 receiver, I get it. But Kupp's the report came out that Kupp should be back this week. So now he's not the 3, he's the 4. and he's really the 5 because Todd Gurley. So no.
All right, let's take a second here and talk about our friends at Gorb. That's GHORBH, which stands for Get Hungry or Be Hungry. They give us a reminder that in life, you've only really got 2 choices. You could either get hungry or be hungry. And I don't know about you guys, but I like getting that every now and then subtle reminder that, what we're doing here, what we're doing in our day-to-day lives, really, we shouldn't be wasting energy on things. We should be finding out what fuels us, what we're passionate about, and just going for it and be willing to get hungry and work for it. If you check them out at gorb.com, that's GHORBH.com, you could get all kinds of great T-shirts, long sleeve shirts, hoodies, accessories, all kinds of stuff from Gorb that's not only fashionable, not only feels good, but it looks good as well. Gorb.com. Get it on it today. Get hungry or be hungry. All right, let's talk about some streamer options here. This is kind of always a fun thing to look at because we tend to have different opinions about stuff. So it opens up some fun conversation. A mass of 6 teams are on bye this week, including the Eagles, the Colts, the Bengals, the Giants, the Jaguars, and the Juggernaut Cardinals. They're all on bye this week. So let's look at some players who can potentially fill in and serve your team well. A quarterback this week, obviously, you've got Luck, you've got Wentz, Manning, Bortles, Rosen. They're all down. Who would you rather spot start this week? So, this is a situation where it might be somebody that you could either pick up or is deep on a bench. Derek Carr at the 49ers, Ryan Fitzpatrick at the Panthers, Sam Darnold at the Dolphins, or Case Keenum versus the Texans.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to this earlier, so I'll jump in first. I have claims in for Derek Carr this week against the 49ers. I'm a major Wentz and Luck owner this year in fantasy, which is pretty much exactly what I wanted heading into the season. But that being said, that gives you week 9 issues, including one league where I have them both. They are my quarterbacks, and they are not playing. So I'm pretty big on Carr this week. He's going up against the Niners, and yes, usually I miss their don't be on the road on Thursday, but this isn't really a road game, so I'm not counting that. More importantly, the 49ers just allowed 20-plus points to Josh Rosen, who had not scored more than 14 in any other game this year, and Rosen hit him up for 20. They're getting shredded across actually, the only other time they didn't give up 20 was Josh Rosen the first time. So I'm all over Derek Carr coming off. He looks like he and the whole offense really look freed up by Amari Cooper being gone, not having to force him targets, or even when he wasn't getting targets, look his way as the primary receiver, and he obviously wasn't open, so it messed up the timing. They just looked really good against the Colts at times on offense. So I want to stick with that and see if it becomes a trend this week against a really bad Niners pass defense.
I also said Derek Carr. I don't have a lot to add to it other than what you alluded to there at the end, that he looked revitalized this week. He looked like he got to have that week off, really get refocused, and even though he got a couple of guys on at receiver that aren't really big names other than Jordy Nelson, the corpse of Jordy Nelson, he still looked like he was really fresh coming out. And against a terrible 49ers team, I like him to have a big week this week.
Yeah, I'm on Carr as well. Look, here's the thing about Derek Carr. Other than, maybe, 2 games where he looked just really bad, he's completing a ton of passes. At a high rate, I should say. So 5 different times this year, he's completed 72% or better of his passes. That's a really good number. So high percentage there, not a ton of risk. Over the last 3 weeks specifically, where he's averaging 74% completion, he has got 1 pick and 4 touchdowns. So, against San Francisco, you would think he's probably a safe bet for 275 to 300 and 3 scores, which for a bye week filler, I'd take that every time.
Yeah,
every time.
Yeah, I know the world probably thinks I'm going to say Sam Darnold. He did have
I think you're going to say Sam Darnold.
He did have a 330-yard game against Miami earlier this year. which is good, and I think he's grown since that point. But the 49ers pass defense has been dreadful, and Carr actually looked somewhat decent last week in his first week without Amari. So I'm going to go 4 for 4 on Carr this week.
All right. So at running back, obviously Saquon Barkley, Marlon Mack, Joe Mixon, David Johnson are among some of the prime backs that are going to sit this week. Would you rather play Doug Martin at the Niners, Peyton Barber at the Panthers, Chris Carson versus the Chargers, or Dion Lewis at Dallas this week?
I was intrigued as I was reading through this list when you first sent it out until I hit Chris Carson.
Yeah,
I don't think Chris Carson any longer belongs on this list. He's just an RB2.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a little nervous because I was high on him, including him being my daily value of the week over on footballgoons.com last week. And honestly, if you checked out that article, you were pretty happy if you went with Chris Carson and Christian Kirk. I guarantee you that. But anyways, back to it. I had read, even though I was high on him, that Pete Carroll said, hey, Chris Carson's still going to be our starter, but he's going to split time with Mike Davis and Rashad Penny. And then he didn't at all. So, I mean, Mike Davis still got 10 carries, but Carson had almost 30 touches in this game. They're riding this guy. He's playing unbelievable. The offense as a whole is actually doing pretty well. Carson is not on this list. Carson should be a starter every single week.
Yeah, I actually said Chris Carson too. It's a middle of the pack Chargers defense against the run. I think they really missed Joey Bosa on that front line, and Carson's been doing a lot with what he's been given. The only week that in the past 3 weeks, the only week that he wasn't in double digits was against Oakland, and that's because they were blowing them out and they were going backs by committee to give people rests because it wasn't really a game for them. They were up so big so fast. So
he only had 14 touches.
Yeah.
Yeah, three out of the last 4 weeks he's had over 100 yards just on the ground, and he gives you the threat of a couple catches through the air. So yeah, I agree with Miles. He's actually a must start every week now. Like at least in your flex.
Yeah, not much else to say here. 2 in a row here. We're going 4 for 4, which is kind of weird for us, but Chris Carson is the guy. Look, the reason why he's on this list is because he's not being started at a high enough percentage right now to be qualified technically as an RB2. That needs to change.
Yeah,
that needs to change. I think people are scared about the whole split idea with Mike Davis. Mike Davis is not as good of a back. He's just not. So is he going to spell him from time to time? Yes. Is he going to, maybe vulture a touchdown here and there? Yeah. But if you're going to tell me that Carson is going to get basically 20 plus carries every week, be right around 100 yards and always be an option to score, I mean, that's what you're looking for out of your running back too. So I think he's got to be off these kinds of lists as well. All right, the tight end position here. We got Zach Ertz. You've got Eric Ebron. We've got CJ Uzuma, Evan Ingram. They're all going to miss this week with the bye. Who would you rather stream? Herndon from the Jets at Dolphins. Jared Cook at the 49ers. I guess I should probably say names because not everybody's a nerd like me and just has it all memorized, I guess. Or David Njoku versus the Chiefs this week at the tight end position.
I went Jared Cook on this one. He's been up and down like the Raiders, but like we just talked about a little bit ago, Derek Carr's been back on. I expect Jared Cook to be back on, and we've already covered the 49ers defense, pretty shaky, to say the least. So I like Jared Cook to have a pretty big game here. Maybe top 6 or 7 tight end in the league this week.
I actually
go ahead. Yeah, you go.
Well, all right. I have a feeling we're all going to be different on this one then because I went with David Njoku for the Chiefs. I'm going to try really hard to get over his 0, scoring as many points as my daughter last week.
You're not salty.
I am because I finished like half a point out of major money on FanDuel with David Njoku. I mean, he needed a catch for no yards. Listen, speaking of salty, I do like him this week. I'm going to ride the train again. He still has 50 yards or more in every one of Baker Mayfield's start until last week. I can't let one bad week overshadow what's been a trend of really good tight end play. And the Chiefs are the 6th worst team in fantasy against tight end. They're getting beat up. Touchdowns to Zuma, touchdown to Jeff Hireman, 97 yards to Gronk. I mean, Niles Paul hit him for 7 for 65. I mean, they can't cover the tight end. So I'm going to stick with Njoku. If he burns me again, he's dead to me.
I'm sort of already there with Njoku. So that's why I'm going with one Christopher Herndon IV of the New York Jets. Look, 3 straight games with a touchdown. I'm a sucker for, like these consecutive streaks. It seems like he's kind of developing a rapport with Sam Darnold in the red zone. He's not obviously, soaking up a ton of targets. As he's got 11 total over the last 3 games. He's only got 7 catches over the last 3 games, but three consecutive weeks with a touchdown in the red zone. I expect that he's going to be a prime target for them in the red zone against the Finns this week. I think he's going to score a touchdown again this week, so I'm going to take him.
I said the same thing. I'll be a homer this time, but I'm glad South to back me up on this. Listen, I've owned Cook and Njoku in most of my leagues this year. Those are the 2 guys that I've been steady on, and both of them have let me down numerous times. And I Cook more so than Njoku. Like Miles said, since Baker's been there, he's been pretty consistent. But Herndon is becoming more consistent. He's developing that chemistry. He is a red zone target, and it's because the Jets are losing offensive quote unquote weapons weekly now. You cut Pryor, and it's not because he was injured from everything I'm reading in the New York media. It's because he's just not, it's not a team guy. He's, looks out for himself. He's not showing up in practice and stuff like that. So, you cut him. Quincy's hurt. Robbie's hurt. It's going to be lingering. It's a hamstring issue. So his whole game is speed. So we could very well see a similar offensive look as last week, where you have Jermaine Kearse and 4 guys off the street. So yeah, I'm trusting Herndon this week. I like Southside. I think he gets in the end zone again, which I'm all about. And if I had to bet which one of these 3 was going to wind up in the end zone, it'd be Herndon.
All right, couple defenses on a bye this week as well in the Eagles, the Jags. The Colts have been a popular stream option the last couple weeks. The Giants defense has been playing a lot better, and the Cards had some nice matchups as well. The Bengals came on strong last week as well. So all of those defenses are off this week. So if you need to stream a defense based on availability, got the Redskins versus the Falcons, the Dolphins versus the Jets, and the Titans at Dallas this week.
I'm pretty consistently a rule breaker on this podcast, so I'm going to break the rules, and I'm going off your list. But I do like one of the games you picked, with the Titans at Dallas. I'm going to flip the script on you, and I'm going to take the Cowboys defense against Tennessee.
They're too heavily owned.
Are they really?
Yeah, they are. They are actively, and well, I mean, maybe because of the bye, they're down a little bit, but
I think it's because Texas is such a big state, and so many Cowboys fans probably own them.
That could be. I mean, I still, I mean, I appreciate hearing it, so I'll let you.
I do. I'll still stick with it because they were available in several of my leagues. I just like them going up against Tennessee. Those guys are just a mess, and maybe the bye week fixes them. I don't know. Games in Dallas, the Cowboys have looked good on defense to this point, so I'm going to stick with them to shut down Tennessee coming off of their own bye at home.
For this one, I'm going with the Dolphins against the Jets. And look, this isn't like I think that this is like a easy money kind of thing, but the Jets are turning the ball over a fair amount, so you would expect that the Dolphins are going to have some kind of opportunity there. Rocco hit the nail on the head where he said that really, as far as your outside weapons, there's not a lot to be desired there that you're going to be playing against this week. I don't expect that they're going to magically get healthy, in time for this game this week. And then at the running back position, they're also struggling there as well a little bit. Powell's down now. You're probably going to get a couple guys who are pretty talented coming back soon. I just don't think it's going to be soon enough this week. This is based mostly on the fact that the Dolphins are going to be at home against a division rival, against somebody that they're familiar with, playing a rookie quarterback without a whole ton of viable weapons surrounding him this week. You got to take it off mute first.
Man, I was saying some enlightening information.
I
there.
figured that's why
I was
wanted
really
to-
dropping some stuff that you needed to hear. I feel like I can't even duplicate it. No, I picked the Dolphins versus the Jets. They already played earlier this season. While I think that Sam Darnold has improved, I think the team is still kind of in shambles, especially their receivers all banged up. They in our league they put up 13 points against the Jets earlier this season. The big reason I like them is because I think that the Jets are least likely of these offenses to score more than 21 points, and they're probably going to get a couple turnovers. So I think you're going to get at least a couple points out of them here.
I flipped the script and I took the Jets because they're only owned about 24%. And to me, I think they have the most playmakers of any of these teams on defense that can turn the ball over, get you picks, I mean, they're not really a team that gets a lot of sacks, but they do have a lot of picks already. They do have 2 defensive touchdowns this year already. I mean, I think either one of those is the right answer, the Jets or the Dolphins, to be honest.
Yeah, if you're playing 2, play both of them.
Yeah. I think you have a chance where like the 2 highest scoring defenses this week are going to be those 2 defenses.
in a 6-3 game.
I trust the Jets defense to make more turnovers. So I kind of pulled the Miles there also, but I mean, I think it's legitimate. 24% owned for the Jets is kind of silly because I think if memory serves me correctly, I think they're like the number 7 scoring defense this year.
Is it silly though?
Yeah, it is.
I don't know. I mean, how'd they work out for you in our FanDuel competition last week? I mean,
Hey-o.
I don't know. I feel like there's some homerism there.
There's definitely some homerism there, but like it's not unwarranted. They're the number 7 scoring defense. So unless you play in a 6-team league, the Jets should be rostered in almost every league,
like
and they're
90%,
24%.
90% of their scoring was week 1.
Yeah,
not 90. Yeah, that's a little bit fabricated.
85. Sorry,
Miles, do some math for us, man. Come on.
I don't want to. It's nighttime. Sorry.
All right, let's take another pause here before we get into our next segment and talk about something that we're going to be doing here in the month of November. That's kind of like a special thing that we decided to put together here. And I'm going to kind of let Deal describe to you a little bit what we're doing here.
Yeah, we decided over the course of November that we're going to participate in No Shave November. We already got a kickstart on it on our faces here, but we really wanted to rally together with our Goon Squad and take a pause for a second. We're going to keep playing fantasy football and keep talking about it, but really refocus on what's more important to us, and that's just people in our lives. So we're taking the month of November, and generally the premise of No Shave November is that guys, I guess girls can take a break, man. I hope my wife just doesn't participate, but just
long pants. Long pants.
Yeah. But generally what it is you don't shave during that month to kind of raise awareness for cancer and then contribute. They say the money you would save from not shaving, that has to be about $3. So I would suggest you would maybe consider contributing more. But we would love it if you guys would partner with us and just rally for a good cause. We decided that we're going to support Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, specifically their cancer unit, pediatric cancer. We have some personal reasons for that. South has a child that has been given life-saving service there at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I had a little battle with cancer a couple years ago, so it hits home for us, but we know that cancer hits home for most people. So we're asking you that you would partner with us. We're going to have the links up on our Facebook, on our Twitter, on our website, where you can go. 100% of what you give goes directly towards fighting pediatric cancer in the Philadelphia area and really across this country. And we would just love you guys to be a part of that with us.
Yeah, no, and this is awesome, and I kind of applaud you, Deal, because you brought this up with us a couple of weeks ago, and you really didn't let it die out because it's important to everybody. So it's something that we want to do. It's something fun that we could do, but at the same time do something meaningful and contribute in a meaningful way. So like he said, make sure you check out the website footballgoons.com. And then again on social media, on our Twitter @footballgoons, facebook.com/footballgoons. We're going to have all the links there. And, like he said, you can contribute directly to them. None of this is going to be funneled through us in any way. You could directly donate. Everything that you give is going to go 100% to them. And again, a couple bucks, whatever you spend,
Yep.
you know, in a month to shave, you know. So, you know, we do I know I always have a beard on my face, but for trimming up purposes, and, you know, my wife and I, we get Dollar Shave Club. It's like $5 to $7 a month. So,
Yeah.
you know, that little bit can go a long way if we all band together. So, you know, check it out, footballgoons.com.
Yeah, no contributions too small here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to turn that into a competition at the end of the month. But is there any way South is not going to have the best beard at the end of this month? Of the four of us?
I don't know.
0%.
I'm not even sure you're going to tell the difference on Rocco.
Oh, you shut up, man. I shaved like 2 nights ago.
Miles, I have an idea. Why don't we let your wife judge?
Nah, she's just gonna be disgusted across the board.
Yeah, I actually, you said a competition, but this isn't all about, you know, just making a name for yourself. But I'm gonna put this out there. We're gonna have a limited edition logo with a little Football Goons logo with the beard on it. I'm gonna personally, whoever contributes the most to this, if you contribute anonymously and you want to just drop us a note and let us know you contributed, whoever contributes the most, I'm gonna get you a one-of-a-kind Football Goons T-shirt with the beard on it.
Nice.
So I'm gonna throw that out there. Whoever wants to give the most, I'm gonna get that T-shirt to you.
It's awesome. All right, guys, let's talk about some trends that are happening right now in fantasy football and the NFL in general here. You know, we discussed Ryan Fitzpatrick a little bit earlier here in the pod, but what does the future hold for Jameis Winston? Can he salvage things in Tampa Bay at this point? You know, is he basically who his stats to this point say that he is? You know, does he need a change of scenery?
Is he even good?
They are
what
who we
mean.
thought they were.
Does anybody know if he's actually good?
No, nobody knows.
Like, I think that's the frustrating part, is because he was drafted number 1 overall, we had the expectations of a number 1 overall pick. Like, hello, of course we do. But his only not coming out of school was he didn't take care of the ball. And now he's not taking care of the ball. I think he just is who he is. Now, can he go to a better situation? Yeah, probably. And maybe it'll fix it. I don't know. I think he's just been coddled so much there with, you know, they essentially fired Lovie Smith to promote Dirk Cutter because Jameis wanted Dirk Cutter. Well, Dirk Cutter's a disaster. So, like, stop babying this guy. He's like a 25-year-old man at this point. I think moving on is the only option. Will it save his career? I really don't know.
I want to meet the guy who said that Jameis Winston was like the brightest football mind since Peyton Manning. Because
maybe he is drawing it on the board.
Yeah,
and exporting his knowledge to his limbs is where he struggles.
He can't outsource it.
Right.
I don't think. Listen,
he actually did outsource it. He outsourced it to Ryan Fitzpatrick. He straight outsourced it.
I don't think this can continue, this back and forth between him and Fitzpatrick. It's not good for him. I think, but I think this is kind of like the answer. Like, okay, like we know now we're not going to pay Jameis an extension. So I would not be surprised if he's traded. I don't mean like before the deadline, but maybe in the offseason, or, you know, they just don't pick up his 5th-year option and then he walks after free agency. He could be revitalized someplace else. I mean, listen, let's say the Jaguars pick him up and he goes down there and plays, you know, back in Florida, you know, for an organization that, you know, is not going to rely on him 100%. They're going to rely on the defense and the running game and maybe let him, you know, play a little bit of a field general type role instead of, you know, the franchise quarterback. So maybe that's what he needs.
So they would just take on a slower Bortles.
Ugh.
You don't think that Jameis has better tools than Blake Bortles?
I mean, maybe
really shown it.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, he runs like a banana slug.
Is that a thing? Is that a real thing?
Yeah, it's like a really slow slug. Yeah.
How fast are the fast ones? Yeah.
No, I mean, like compared to slugs, like, okay, so you know how like if the 4 of us got in a race, like you guys would probably finish it twice before I did.
Yeah,
like that's a banana slug in the slug kingdom.
That doesn't make me fast. It just makes you extra slow.
I would have liked it more if you said he's like as fast as South.
Yeah.
I
like how South asked the question and we were all just like, yeah, that makes sense. Of course.
Got it. Thank you for explaining it to me like I was 5.
All right. Look, at this point, it seems obvious that Le'Veon Bell is not getting his job back, at least to me. That seems pretty clear. Do you think that might lead him to just stay home at this point?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Unless he gets traded.
If he stays home this year was a waste, they can do the same thing to him. And I'm not entirely sure Pittsburgh's not spiteful enough to do it. So I think the best thing for both parties is for him to show up and not play. Just show up, fake an injury every Saturday, shut your mouth, get your year, and move on with your life.
Wait a second. You think – I mean, I understand being spiteful and all, but you think they're going to pay him $18 million?
Well, not now. He's forfeited half of it already.
No. Again next year.
Oh, but if they franchise him again, he's going to sit out again. They're not going to have to pay him again.
No way, because he can't give up 2 years worth of $18 million. Like he's I think he's struggling. Says life. he's got bills to pay.
If you made 14 last year, you can give up 18 because
he'll just drop another rap album.
And I'm sure he was fiscally responsible with that $14 million last year.
You don't know Le'Veon Bell personally.
I think we know her now.
I know football players. Dude was jet skiing like 3 weeks ago with like 12 jet skis. He probably owns all of them.
But that's just off of his rap album.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about the rap album. Oh, geez. Well, that puts a whole different. That changes everything. No, listen. I said weeks ago, and I'm not claiming that like I was, a guru here. I think it was obvious to a lot of people, but I said weeks ago he's already played his last down in Pittsburgh. That's a given. James Conner has given them no reason to look back. I sent you guys the stats today, but for our listeners who might not know this. At this point last year, James Conner has more yards and more touchdowns than Le'Veon Bell did at this point last year. So, I mean, there's no reason, the Steelers are struggling, but it's not because of the running back position, and it's not because of Conner versus Bell. They have other issues that they need to work out. So Lev is done there. He needs to show up to make money or to avoid being franchise tagged again, whatever the case may be, but he's not playing for Pittsburgh this season.
I do have to say, I was at Sheetz on Saturday, and there was a guy, dark sunglasses and a hoodie. So he told me he had a duffel bag, and he said this mixtape is fire. I can't confirm or deny if it was Lev Bell, but it had some similarities.
In Pittsburgh, so I'm pretty sure it was
not. I mean, some striking similarities, I have to say.
I already tweeted a couple weeks ago that I saw Lev Bell hanging out over by the North End Slovak Club. So
that actually makes sense.
Yeah. So, whatever. No, but seriously, like from the James Conner perspective at this point, he's giving you just about everything at this point that Lev Bell has. Like we always kept saying that, all right, well, just that game breaker ability that Lev Bell has had or whatever. And maybe to a degree, you could argue that he's still more of a game breaker when he gets the ball in open space or whatever. But as far as yards per touch, Connor's actually averaging right now more than Bell has over the last couple of years. So he's giving you just as much on a per touch basis. He's getting it done on both sides of the ball. And honestly, like he's just a team guy. So why at this point are you moving away from him? Again, I think it's in Bell's best interest to just report, be a good soldier, maybe play your 5 to 10, carries, whatever. Or, talk to the coach on the side and just be like, hey, I tightened up, I can't go, whatever. Just get through it and get done with it at this point. But I don't think he can get the job back.
Listen, at this point, it's more likely that Le'Veon Bell will be playing for a different team this season. I mean, I know the trade deadline is tomorrow, but he would have to report and a lot of things would have to happen. But it's more likely that Le'Veon Bell suits up for any other team this year than it is that he suits up for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. So
you actually think he won't not to make this go on longer, but you think that he'll give up what at this point $9 million that rather than just come?
No, I don't think so.
He's going to come, man. He's going to show up. He's going to wait till after the trade deadline so he can't be traded and come just collect the paycheck. Doesn't make sense not to.
Yeah. So, and to my point before, last year, Bell, he averaged 86 rushing yards a game, 4 yards per carry, 44 receiving yards a game. Connor this year, 86 yards per game, 4.7 yards per carry, and 46 receiving yards per game. There's no drop off at all. So, which is crazy. All right. So Joe Mixon, has he moved himself into RB1 discussions in fantasy football? Or do you feel like the usage is still too inconsistent at this point?
He's an RB1. I mean, in my opinion. I mean, there's very few, not very few guys. There's only a handful of guys, 6, maybe 7 guys that I would trust more than Joe Mixon on a week-to-week basis. I mean, he gives you. We've talked about it since he came out of college. How dynamic of a playmaker he was. How his ability in both the rushing and the passing game. Scheme wise, the Bengals do use other backs, but he's the best of them all. So why would I not have faith in that every week?
I think he's a clear-cut RB1. Like Rocco said, there's only probably 6 guys that I have ahead of him still, and not only is it on him. Tyler Boyd and, of course, A.J. Green are playing so well that he's going to just continue to get opportunities. They're going to score points, so they're going to be in games, and he's going to have basically an open box to run against because they have to play deep defense on those 2 guys or they're going to get torched for 150 yards each from those 2. So that he's going to get his opportunities.
All right. Real quickly, give me a real-life NFL trade now less than 24 hours before the deadline that makes the most sense to you and isn't just something totally unrealistic. So don't tell me the Jets are going to, trade for Zeke.
That was actually mine.
Oh.
I tried to give him to you, Rock, but he took it away. I picked the Colts, probably not a shocker, but I want the Colts to go and shop Jacoby Brissett. He's had some moments where he's looked excellent. He's had some moments where he's looked terrible. But I think that there are teams like the Colts were last year still open for that chance that he might be good. So a guy we talked about earlier, and I've talked a lot about that the Colts need to draft a big body receiver to really help T.Y. out and really help Andy Luck out there. And I still like Devontae Parker. I think that he needs a change of scenery, and they're still in deep need of a quarterback. Jacoby and Parker have both had flashes where they look like they could be the guy, and then flashes where they look like they're just a guy. But both could be, maybe neither are, but maybe both need a different scene, and I like them both to swap places there.
Yeah, the only problem I have with that trade deal is that I don't know what to believe anymore, but I'm hearing reports that Tannehill might not be as far away as we once thought. Not that he's the answer, but bottom line is he's like 12-1 in his last 13 starts. It's ridiculous. So
if that's the case, of course.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, that would be my only concern with that trade. I don't mind it otherwise, but
yeah, I actually stuck with the receiver position as well. And I actually, my favorite team as well. I think bringing Deshaun Jackson back to the Eagles makes entirely too much sense for both sides. Jackson did request a trade. By all accounts, Tampa said no. Then they went out and lost again this week. So I think that could change their tune a little bit. It gives Tampa an opportunity to play some more Chris Godwin, play some more Adam Humphrey, see what they have in those guys. The Eagles, they brought in Mike Wallace. He's hurt. They had Matt Collins. He's hurt. Shelton Gibson, not effective. So there's your deep threat on this team. And the thing that watching these games is holding the team back is a game breaker, someone who can take it 60, 70 yards. I'll be shocked the Eagles score a 70-yard touchdown this year with the team they have right now. So on top of that, right now they're scheduled to have 7 draft picks on day 3. From rounds 4 to 7, they're scheduled to have 7 picks. I think you unquestionably give up a 4, if not 2 of those later ones to Tampa to bring back this guy. No, he's not a long-term solution. He's owed $10 million next year, none of it guaranteed. He could be an 8-game solution for this team, but more importantly, he gets them back in that Super Bowl conversation with his abilities that they do not have on the roster right now.
I went with the Colts as well. Deal, you'll kind of like this one.
I love it.
I was just kind of looking at teams who are sort of on the fringe right now as to whether or not they should consider buying or selling. I feel like the Colts are there. I feel like it wouldn't cost a terrible amount to do this, and it would probably give them a leg up over, basically everybody but maybe Houston at this point in that division and in the wild card race. I like them to actually make a reasonable offer for Demaryius Thomas.
He was my other option.
We talked about the kind of the carousel as far as what has happened at the wide receiver position for the Colts at this point. It's kind of one of the bigger things that has held them back early in the season here. Their defense has played surprisingly well. They've been pretty stout when they needed to be at times. Last week was a little bit rougher, obviously, with the way the Raiders were able to move the ball against them. But when it's really mattered, they've been able to make some stops. It's just offensively, if you could limit what Luck has in front of him, which injuries basically have been able to do at this point, you've been able to slow them down. But now that they're getting, the running attack established, T.Y. Hilton is healthy. If you added Demaryius Thomas on the other side of that, Jack Doyle and Ebron running routes across the middle, that's a scary proposition. Like to me, that becomes the favorite team in that division almost right away. So if I'm the Colts, I'm looking at making that trade.
And I went kind of outside the box, and I'm looking at like teams that I think can be a contender this year, but where they're weak. And the Steelers secondary is a huge issue to me. I don't know that they trade him. I don't think they really want to, but the Cardinals are going nowhere fast and kind of in a whole team rebuild. I could see the Steelers trying to make a play for Patrick Peterson here, and really trying to giving them a real cover playmaker in that secondary, which they're going to need if they're going to make the playoffs, and then in the playoffs against the Patriots, against, possibly the Texans and that passing attack, or the Chiefs and that passing attack. They're going to need a lockdown corner.
All right, guys, it is Survivor time. So as usual, Deal, Rocco, you could take this part of the segment off. Miles and I still alive here heading into week 9. I guess I kind of through like a technicality, I'm still alive because I did pick the Patriots, who are currently leading with 3 minutes to go in the first half at Buffalo on Monday night, 9-0. So I'm going to play this as if the Patriots are going to win. If they don't, then I'll be lamenting next week as well. Miles picked the Bears this week and had another successful week. So I'll give first crack to you this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go. My only nervousness this week is generally in this kind of game, I like to avoid divisional games because anything can happen in those games. How many times have we seen, an 8-2 divisional team struggle or even lose with like a 3-7 opponent? So kind of things go out the window, whatever cliche you want to use here. But I am going to, throw the records out, whatever. Enter cliche here. As you're struggling with right now with this Bills team who's about to go in the red zone. But anyways, I'm going to go to Minnesota this week. They are hosting the Detroit Lions. I'm going to take the Vikings as my survivor pick. They really took a tough one last night against the Saints. And I thought if they had won that game, to be honest, that would have really opened my eyes to them as a true Super Bowl contender. Because the way Drew Brees and the Saints were going to come in there, it was going to take a mammoth effort to beat them. On top of that, though, what I saw from Minnesota is they only lost the game by 10. Adam Thielen fumbled in the red zone. That's not going to happen again. I mean, there are things like that I don't see happening. On top of that, I'm talking about defending this Minnesota loss. Detroit got smoked at home by Seattle, who historically plays badly when they have to travel this far east. Absolutely no ability to slow down Russell Wilson. As we talked about, definitely no ability to slow down Chris Carson. They couldn't do anything defensively. And Stafford and the offense were kind of stuck in neutral with the exception of Marvin Jones, who finally broke out, which was nice. But I don't like them going into Minnesota to take care of business, especially if Minnesota gets Anthony Barr back, they get Xavier Rhodes back, maybe even Dalvin Cook. They could be getting healthy here at the wrong time for Detroit. I just think even though it's a divisional game, this lines up too much like an easy Vikings victory. I'm taking them for number 9.
All right, and this week I am sticking kind of with my theme to this point, and that's to kind of go with as much chalk as I can to just keep surviving as long as I can. Now I took some chances here and there, but I'm going straight chalk this week. I'm going to take the Chiefs at the Browns Sunday at 1:00. I haven't used the Chiefs yet. They've got a couple of tougher matchups coming up, as much as you could say tougher for how well they're playing. So I think this is a good time to take them while I'm still alive. The Browns are in turmoil right now. Fired their head coach today, fired their offensive coordinator. Their defensive coordinator, probably the one aspect of their team that's been really good, is now going to be their head coach. I would assume he's still going to probably call the defense. But Freddie Kitchens is now your offensive coordinator. And in his short turnaround week here, after being installed as the offensive coordinator, all he has to do is outscore the Chiefs. That's all. So now I realize the defense is going to play a part in that, but let's be honest, no one's really slowing down the Chiefs at this point, and no one's really outscoring them either. I don't believe the Browns are going to be the ones to do it this week. They might put up a little bit of a fight here, just, to try and kind of send a message here the rest of the way. But I don't think Kitchens is going to be able to cook anything up with Baker.
Stop. I can't believe you said that on air, too.
I did it.
So terrible.
At least not enough to get anything done this week. So I'm taking the Chiefs. So
I hope you lose solely because you brought that up.
That was a great line. Admit it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Listen, that's it for this week's edition of the show. Probably for everybody other than me. That's probably a good thing. Good luck to everybody here in week 9. Be sure to keep up with us, as we mentioned earlier, facebook.com/footballgoons. We are at footballgoons on the Twitter website, YouTube channel right here. You could you could subscribe, you could leave comments. You could also check in with us every Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See the progress of our No Shave November as well. We always like to interact on social media, so reach out to us there. Footballgoons.com all week long. Tomorrow morning, this pod will drop for those who were not able to join us live. And then Wednesday, our Goons, Ghosts, and Daily Picks for week 9. And Thursday, our updated fantasy rankings for week 9 as well. We'll catch you next time.